Hi, I'm Brian.
Hey everybody, we're back home here after spending a few days in Tucson over the 4th of July. I wanted to just visit some friends, and it turned into a few longer days to stay out of the heat. Even though it's a little hotter in Tucson, we are having some AC problems here. We're back. We do not have a running AC at this moment. Luckily it cools off a little bit at night, so it's not too bad in the afternoon. There's just a stretch during the day that's pretty rough. But we are getting our AC problem hopefully taken care of. There was a leak in our system. It was not between the kind of the indoor and the outdoor unit, the part that I would have done. It's internal to the outdoor unit, so the manufacturer is actually sending us a new outdoor unit, but it's going to take about a week. So we're going to be a little warm for the next few days. So
I got an ice pack.
But we're making do, and we thought we'd take this opportunity to talk about some of the things we've experienced and learned since we set up our solar system, which I can't remember exactly what it's been. I don't know, 2, maybe even 3 months. At least 2 months, maybe 3. Mm-hmm. I think I've said this before, but the system hasn't, since we put it in, really hasn't done anything wrong. Hasn't misperformed or underperformed. Everything we've encountered has been either our own stupidity or ignorance or just not really preparing. So we just wanted to share some of those things. A lot of it is specific to RV life, full-time RV life. So this is directed largely at those people. And I think one of the reasons we actually ended up making a few of these mistakes is because a lot of the information we got and the help we got was from people who, even if they knew solar systems, kind of approached it from a non-RV kind of standpoint. Maybe information that you'd get about the way devices work in a home or a tiny home, which, as we are learning, a tiny home, depending on who builds it, of course, but is very different from an RV. So it's easy to say that RVs aren't built all that well. And again, I think I've said it before. I don't blame the RV industry for that or anything. It's just they're not intended for the use really that we're using them for. But
I don't think they really expect people to live in them full time.
They sure don't.
I don't know if that makes a difference.
So I don't want to point the finger at the RV industry. I mean, but if you're going to try and do what we're doing, if you're going to try and live full time, which people are trying to do, it's just something to be aware of. And it's not as simple as just saying, yeah, an RV is not that great, so I'll need a little more energy or something like that. It's not that simple. So I want to talk about a few specific examples that we've encountered that make it clear why it's not quite that simple, and the mistakes we've made. They can be overcome for sure, but if you kind of know going in, you can prevent some of these things from happening. We were talking about it earlier, and I think, so if we go kind of chronology from when we first kind of plugged in the solar system, it immediately, if you saw that video, it immediately started doing its job right away. It was collecting a ton of energy that day, you know, the moment we turned it on. But the first night, either the first night or the second night, we actually ran out of power. I think it might have been the first night. And again, you can go back and watch the video, but our system is set up to, I know I'm going to ramble.
No, but I seriously think my brain might be a little bit fried because I'm really having trouble focusing on what you're saying. It's like...
You don't have to stick with me. They have to stick with me. But
all right,
the system is intended, the batteries, we have lithium-ion batteries, and they're intended to go down to 20% charge, 80% discharged, which is great. But the system is set up to cut you off at that point. Basically, it'll shut you down for protection of the batteries. So I can't remember if it was the first night or the second night. It might have been the first night, and that happened to us.
The first night.
And you might think, oh my gosh, solar, is a problem, whatever. No, it was not a problem. The first thing that happened to us was, we've got an aftermarket kind of setup. We didn't do it in our RV that we kind of inherited from the previous owner, where they set up kind of a water heating system, an electric water heating system, and they put in a switch, and it happens to be sideways, which makes it even worse because you can't even tell really what's on and off because it's sideways. It's right by our kitchen sink.
And I would always hear a noise, and I'm like, what is that noise? But it's under the sink. And
clearly we bumped into it and turned it one direction. And again, it's not clear what's on and off because it's sideways. It's just a paddle switch back and forth.
Did I ask you? Didn't I ask you what the noise was?
I think where it was helpful was when we were trying to figure out what happened to our energy that first night, it just disappeared, right? And we were like, what happened? you had noticed that the kitchen sink water was warm, but the bathroom sink water was not.
Right.
And it turns out this particular aftermarket water heater that they put on, I think, was a point of use for the kitchen sink. And we didn't think much about it before that point. But of course, if you didn't already know, electric heating of anything, water, you know, and toasters, microwaves, those are some of the most expensive operations, electrical operations that you can have. So essentially what happened was we spent that whole first night heating water, and we didn't know it.
And then
So,
didn't Derek come over the next day, and then he looked under there?
Yeah, we
and
did a
he
few
said,
testing
"Hey,
of
this is
wires and things.
A water heater.
And it was Derek, I think, who finally kind of noticed. And Liam was still here. They had just installed, we had just hooked up the system. So the guys that kind of helped us put it together were still here. So we were kind of troubleshooting it real time. And we figured that out. So problem number one, self-inflicted, right? But we didn't know. Number two, the second thing that happened. So after that, I think it was maybe just a day or two later.
Yeah.
And I don't think at this point, this one I don't think shut us down, but we started to kind of track the data, right? So Liam and Derek, the guys who helped us put it together and set it up, they were kind of tracking the data. You know, Liam is all about these graphs of our usage and our collection and all these things. They were looking at the data and they were seeing that each night we were getting almost empty. We weren't getting shut off, but we were getting almost empty. I should have said at the beginning, well, I did. This is Solar Lessons Learned, but it'll be in the title.
And our AC is out. I don't know.
And our AC is out. So, but Liam was looking at the data and noticed that we were going almost empty every night, and we didn't have really an explanation for that. You know, after the water heater thing, we were like, well, what's going on? Why are we, you know, at the time, if you hadn't watched, I think it's in some of our videos, but our rooftop air conditioner that was on our RV was broken. Day one, right? So
we didn't know it.
We weren't.
Until
well, we did as soon as we tried to turn it on. So
it was working when we looked at it.
It worked when we bought it. But by the time we plugged in the solar and tried to use the AC, we figured out right away that it was broken. So the point of that, what I'm saying is, we weren't using any air conditioning at that point. It was before we knew we were going to put in a mini split, but we hadn't done it yet. So there was no explanation really for why we would be almost empty every morning. So he started looking, he was seeing it in the data, and it was anywhere from 300 to 500 watts, and it was just a kind of a steady draw all through the night. So, you know, a little bit of troubleshooting, a little bit of plugging things in and messing around with stuff, and it was the refrigerator. And again, I might not be shocking people, but if you didn't know this, you might be surprised to know. An RV refrigerator, pretty inefficient. Not surprising to say that, but just how bad it was and how much energy it drained was just shocking. And by the way, that can get even worse. This was in April-ish, I think, when we first plugged it in.
But at least we were able to switch it to gas.
Yeah, there's a solution. So, but it was shocking, right? So, and it gets worse as the summer goes on because that thing is poorly insulated and poorly ventilated. You can actually do a little bit of stuff, which we probably still will do to try and help that. But it just burned. It just burned all night long, burned the energy all night long.
My head's hot.
So the solution, again, easy. That was, well, not really self-inflicted, but it was something we didn't know. That was our ignorance. But not the solar system's fault. So the solution, of course, was to flip it over to gas, which is fine. Now, ultimately, we don't really want to use propane, but for a temporary solution, that's fine for us for now. It doesn't use a ton of propane, not a big deal. So that's our solution. And we are still actually to this day running it on propane just because it sucks a lot of electricity. So that was number two. If you didn't know, that's a big deal. And again, it's not that you can't build for these things. It's just if you don't build it in, if you don't know beforehand that it's going to suck 300 to 500 watts constantly, then you're going to come up short like we did. So you can absolutely build a solar system that will accommodate it. You just have to know. So the lesson to be learned here for everybody out there is solar perfectly fine. Just know what you need from it. And we didn't. We made assumptions and we were wrong in places and we got burned by it. So that's kind of the whole point. So that was two. Third one, gosh, I can't remember. The third one, I think, I don't know if there was a specific, I can't remember if there was a specific incident, but just over the course of, as it got hotter, just the inefficiency of the trailer became really obvious once we did get the mini split in. That's what I wanted to say.
We thought that it was because it kept getting hotter and hotter. We thought it was because it was getting hotter and hotter outside, but it was because it was not I mean, it was leaking out.
So that's a little separate actually from the solar system talk, but it does, there, as I said at the beginning of this video, we had a leak that was internal to our AC unit, our outdoor unit. It actually had it from day one. It was a slow leak. We had a technician come back and actually fiddle with some things, and he thought he had kind of fixed it. So we actually lost our AC about a week or two in. And then, so he messed around with the valves. He suspected a leak at the service valve that it comes from the factory with. But he fiddled with it, thought it was fixed. And it did hold for a good 5-6 weeks. But over the past couple of weeks, prior to us actually realizing we had leaked out again, we just got a little bit less comfortable by the day, right? We're running it, and it's kind of doing its thing, but yet we feel like, you know, it was a couple degrees warmer than it should have been, warmer than the set point. And I had put, because it had been 5-6 weeks since that whole leak thing happened the first time, I had put that out of my mind. I thought we were beyond that. So that didn't occur to me. So the conclusion I came to,
I didn't
which
want to believe it.
I now hope was a false conclusion, I thought, well, when you get to a certain temperature, you know, it's 105 out or whatever, and you've got the inefficiencies of a trailer, right? You've got bad seals, bad insulation, bad windows, all that stuff, right? I thought maybe it just can't keep up, and I now think that's wrong, and I hope that's wrong, because that would be very bad for us.
When he put some solar screens on, and it seemed to get a little better.
I have a video of the solar screen kind of construction and installation that I'm going to put together. And it did make a difference. I don't know if you can tell behind me, but it's not real light out right now, but there are shade screens over our windows now, and it did help. But so we started to leak refrigerant, which we didn't realize at the time. We just got less and less comfortable, and we thought we were basically we thought it was beyond our control. There's nothing we could do about it. But it really did turn out to be, we had a leak. But even when there wasn't a leak, we just found out how much the third lesson, and again, it didn't completely kill us, but just know, it's not enough just to know in a generic sense how inefficient a trailer is, and that you're losing cold air out the door, you know, and out the windows and all that stuff. You really need to be able to put the numbers to that so that you can build your solar system appropriately, because this thing was built to handle an air conditioner, a refrigerator, you know, without realizing how badly they would perform in this environment. So you just have to know that, you know, your 12,000 BTU or whatever it is, 13.5 is very common for your standard, you know, kind of rooftop unit on an RV, that it's going to run, you know, almost nonstop. If you've got heat like we have, of course this is, but you just have to really.
We've been pretty lucky.
Well, it's a lot cooler than Phoenix. I'll give it that.
It hasn't been all that bad.
But
it's been bad.
Just do your homework beforehand is really the point I want to get across. And again, this is mainly for RVers. If you've built yourself a tiny house and you've insulated it well and sealed it well, or you're doing this in a home or whatever, there are a lot of applications where it doesn't get quite as ugly as what I'm describing here. But specific to RVs, and again, no fault of their own, they're not intended to be permanent homes. So, but if you are going to try and do this, know how bad it is, and don't just generalize it like we kind of did and thought we'd be okay.
Also,
really know how bad it is.
Also, it is really hard sometimes to stay positive with things going wrong left and right.
That's another thing.
A lot of people, I don't know if they want to just keep going, because there's been times that I've been like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm done.
A general lessons learned kind of thing is, yeah, we knew coming into this there'd be things that'd be hard, right? And we'd encounter problems that we'd have to overcome. But you kind of think to yourself, well, the problems that I have to overcome, it'll either just be, well, I just have to buckle down for a day or two and work hard, or I'll have to spend some money. And you know, you have to just assume that you're going to have to do that from time to time.
I'm constantly telling myself, okay, there's got to be something good that's going to come out of this. I don't know what it is, but
and those things are okay. We came in prepared for that, and you should go in prepared for that. There are going to be things that are going to knock you down, and you're going to have to either suffer for a little bit or work hard for a day or spend some money or whatever. You have to be prepared for those. But this one that's been happening to us, the AC one specifically,
over and over.
And again, it's magnified by the fact that we live in Arizona. This might not apply to everybody out there, depending on where you are, but if you're in this kind of heat, it really is so draining. Mentally, mentally as much as physically, maybe even more so. It's hard to stay positive. It's hard to do another project and put together a video or whatever it might be, or just do almost any task when you're just baking in this little oven at 100 plus degrees, and there's really nothing you can do about it, and it's beyond your control. You've made the phone calls to the manufacturer. Everybody's doing everything they can do. Like I said, I think we're getting this problem fixed, but it's not going to be fixed for a week.
Yeah,
and
so
it's going to be rough.
We got to try to find ways to stay cool.
So this has been one that's really been tough for us. We knew that there would be tough days, but
we've been putting Dallas in the bathtub to.
The extreme heat is hard to deal with. So be prepared for the setbacks for sure. But this one that's been happening to us is really hard. It's not for everybody. It's tough.
I'm sliding because I have sweat under my.
Just we wanted to give everybody a heads up, kind of on how that's. I really want to warn, and again, it's not to tell you not to do it, but if you're an RVer who's going to try and pull this off in an RV full-time or full-time for some extended period, if you're going full-time RV and that's your final kind of destination, or you're, like we are, going to be in an RV for a period of time until you get that final solution, know what you're getting into from an energy standpoint. If you want to go solar, which again I think is a fantastic idea, I'm glad I've done it. I don't discourage anyone from doing it. I actually encourage everybody to do it. But know the loads that you're going to put on that system, because if you just generalize some of the usages, you are likely to get burnt. You're likely to come up short, as we did. We thought we were being smart, but we got burnt. So, and it's all looking back. When you look back at it, it's kind of obvious, but it's not obvious when you're in the middle of it, and you are kind of baffled sometimes at what's happening to you. Even with all these things that I've talked about, we're fixing these problems. We're going to fix our AC. We are still short on energy on a hot day, you know. And yeah, we have tons of sun, but still the inefficiencies of the trailer are hurting us. We actually have we have a generator as well. And what we're doing right now, even when that AC is working, when we get it fixed, on the hottest of days, 100 plus degrees, we are, because our system is a little small at this point, because we didn't really size it quite big enough. Now we're going to take care of that. We've actually got additional panels already, and we're going to add batteries. We're going to upsize, which we had planned on doing all along. We just thought we could get away with this much for a while in the trailer. We were wrong. Our solution until we do that is the generator, and what we're going to do is for a few hours of the day in the morning or early in the day, we're going to run that generator, and it does everything we need. I can run the air conditioner on it, and that'll allow our batteries, without getting any load on them, they'll just kind of skyrocket. They'll get a nice, we get nice sun, and the batteries fill up pretty quickly. But they obviously don't fill up that quickly when you're using the air conditioner at the same time. So that's our temporary solution, is a couple hours of generator, and it's not perfect. It's not a great solution, but we're working toward the future solution. But I just want to warn people, you absolutely can and should do it, but know what you're getting into. Really find out what those true numbers are. Find out what those true loads are. Don't learn about it in your house or on paper or whatever, and then just think you've got it. Know what it is, because it will surprise you. There are things that will surprise you, and you'll get burnt by it. So that's just our word of caution. We're still here. We're okay. We're just a little warm temporarily. We'll get through it. But a little words of wisdom. Yeah, maybe you already knew it, but if you didn't, hopefully it'll help you.
Oh, hey, we need to do, eventually we're going to do, say more about ourselves, why we're MidlifePrices.
Yeah.
Our name is Price. Our last name is Price. I don't know if anybody even knows that.
Which, by the way, yeah.
I assume they know it.
Keep the comments coming. Subscribe, ask questions, because, there are things that we either just take for granted, or we forget to say, or maybe we mean to say them and then we don't say them. So if you've got a question or something we haven't made clear, or you're like, why is your name MidlifePrices?
And we would like
go ahead and ask.
We would like
because
to
we
have
might forget
some action work, but we haven't been able to do a whole lot.
That's kind of the reason I said it's been tough being so hot. We haven't done a lot of project stuff because it's really tough to. So we are going to do a good bit of this talking. I hope it doesn't bore everybody to death. I hope you get something out of it. But there will be project stuff too. And then we'll mix in, as you've already seen, a little bit.
Let us know if it's too boring.
Just some goofy fun stuff, which is why it helps if you tell us what you're interested in, what you want more of. I know a couple people, the biggest comment I've gotten probably with our, our growth recently here is, tell us about your plans with the land. So we are going to do that. We'll probably maybe spend a day walking around the land and saying, not that we've got tons and tons of land, but, we plan to put this kind of building here. We plan to put this kind of building here. And I'll tell you right off the bat, we don't have all the answers today. We've been here 4 months, which is a while, and it's not a while, right? In the grand scheme of things, it's not all that much. So
we have done
we don't
lot,
know everything
but then
yet.
We haven't done much, so it just depends on
you
how
can look at it
it
sometimes and think we've come a long way, and you can look at it other times and think we haven't done anything yet. So
we're probably running.
I'm not going to claim we are going pretty long, but I'll warn you that even when we talk, I don't have all the answers as far as what we're going to do with the land. We may change our minds as we go, but we'll tell you what we're thinking.
And if you're still there, if you're still with us at this point,
here.
I mean, I've always had a hard time with cameras. I don't like cameras. I always look goofy in pictures, and I'm trying to overcome
Since
that,
we've already gone this long, I'll just keep rambling. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so again, if you know us, you might know that we've had a hard time kind of being ourselves. I think we're getting a little better, but
our
in the
friends
beginning,
say we're funny.
In the beginning, especially people tell us we're funny. In the beginning, even I noticed that we didn't look or sound like ourselves, and I still don't think we're quite there. But we're gonna try and put a little more content out, and it's gonna jump around a little bit. And I apologize if it's maybe not exactly what you want to see, but at the same time, I think the more we do this, the more comfortable we'll get. So it is a little weird to sit here and talk, and not everything we say and do is even really necessarily in our normal charter or anything.
And I have been told I'm weird, so if I do weird things, I'm just weird.
She's an artist.
So
anyway,
artists are weird, I guess.
Thanks for watching. This one's kind of long. I don't know if I'll chop it up too much, but I mean, if you like hearing us talk, you'll like it. But thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. We're outside now because it's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. And I thought of the third thing. So the third thing that happened to us, and again, self-inflicted and our own ignorance, we had some friends over to the trailer. Actually, it was a big off-grid party, right? We had Handyman and High Carb Hannah over here, and we had the Green Dream Project over, and Oliver the Tiny.
Oliver the Tiny.
So the point is, and Billy and Jody, we had like eight or 10 people over here, right? And they came over and we hung out outside a little bit, played some cornhole, had a good time. So, but after the sun went down, we went inside for a little while in our trailer, and we hung out, played some cards, and just talked for an hour or two, right? And there were like 8 people in there. And then some of those people left. It was dark. Some of those people left. And we actually, our friends Billy and Jody had brought their RV over, and we went over to their RV for a few more hours, just playing some cards and talking. And it might have been 11. It got pretty late when we came back over to our trailer. I mean, this is just 10 steps away or whatever, but we came back over to the trailer, and Liam had actually noticed from across the country.
Did he text us, right?
Liam, the guy, yeah, I think he texted us. Liam, the guy who kind of designed the system, had been watching it. He's watching it remotely, the performance. And he said, "You guys are running really low. You might want to shut things down there." And we're like, "What do you mean?" Because I hadn't been watching. At that time, I wasn't watching it like a hawk, right? So I since have gotten better at watching it. But he said, "You guys are almost empty." And we said, "That doesn't make any sense. We haven't really done anything differently." So I thought back about it, that night. It turns out he was right. We were almost empty. And I think that night, even though we tried, we scaled back right at that moment as best we could. I think that night we went to 0, which is really 20%. The system shut down basically. And the next morning, it's kind of a hassle when the system shuts down because it won't really come back on until it gets to, it doesn't happen as soon as the sun hits the panels, you've got energy again. It waits till you get to a certain point before it kind of gives you battery power again. So it's a bit of a hassle, but in thinking about it, what we did differently, slightly, when people came over, we don't keep it super cold in there to begin with. We're comfortable at like 80 degrees or whatever, and some people might think that's crazy, I don't know, but we turned it down like 2 degrees for a couple people. For some people come over, we thought that might be more comfortable for some other people, and all we thought was, well, what's 2 degrees gonna matter? It's not gonna make a big difference, right? So we really did use all that energy that night, and it took me a while at least. I don't think Liam was surprised by it. He might have known it, but I don't know if he said it right away. What we found out the next day was, and Liam confirmed it, I was talking to him and he said, "What'd you do last night?" And I think we were on the phone at this point maybe. And he said, "What'd you do?" And I told him what we did, and that we'd hung out in there a little bit. And he said, "How many people were in there?" And I said, "I don't know, 8 or something." And he said, "For how long?" And I told him, and then he said, "Do you know how many BTUs that is?" So just another thing I hadn't taken into account. It's one thing to have 2 people in there. So all this unit does, most AC units work this way. There are different ways AC units can work, but one common way for an AC unit to work is for it to move heat from one place to another. It doesn't actually generate cold air and blow it. It moves heat from one place to another. In this case, from the inside to the outside.
Did it shut completely down that time?
The system ended up shutting off that night, but it wasn't until like 4 in the morning. We were asleep when it shut off, but it did.
And that's not good.
That is not good. It's a hassle to recover from it. But anyway, when he told me, there really is a huge difference between the amount of heat it has to move from the inside to the outside when it's just me and Pam sitting in there, and when there's 8 people sitting in there giving off body heat and everything. So that's a huge difference. And after you come to that realization, that's an obvious thing. But prior to that happening, I never would have even, obviously I didn't give it a second thought. And yeah, we burned all our energy because of that. So another thing to keep in mind, something as simple as having a few extra people around, you have to, again, it's not that you can't accommodate it, you just have to be aware. So, and just another, that was number 3. Those are the big 3 kind of incidents that have happened to us. And again, none of them are the solar system not doing its job. They were all kind of just learning experiences for us. So that was the final one. I kind of forgot what it was, but that's it. Dallas would like to go back inside now, even though it's much cooler out here.
It's hot in there. You don't want to go in there.
All right, well, signing off again. Thanks. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.